So welcome to the second annual Ruth Borun Lecture, the 2022 Ruth Borun Lecture Series. We're really delighted to have such a wonderful turnout and have all of you come celebrate an adventuresome plants woman. So I knew Ruth very well for a long time. She was an amazing woman, and it is my honor to talk to you about her garden and a wonderful book that has been done about her garden, and then also share just a few plants. We decided not to cover too many plants because we didn't want to run late, because Suzanne Simard is coming and we're real excited to hear what she has to say. So this is Ruth. The picture was taken in 1985 in England. I don't know who took it, but you can tell the personality of this person. She was just a really grand woman. So the reason that we have this second annual Ruth Borun Lecture is because of the generosity of the Borun family. Ruth passed away a couple of years ago, and after she died, Dr. Ray Borun came to us proposing that a donation be made to the society in honor of Ruth, and we created the Ruth Borun Lecture Series to help disseminate information about wonderful plants, great gardeners, wonderful places to see, and different ideas that are coming from people that love plants. And that's what the series is all about. And that's what Ruth was all about. She just loved plants and she loved gardening. So next slide, please, Erin. So this is very exciting. This is a book that was created by photographer Saxon Holt. He's a photojournalist, and he was invited to do a record of the Borun Garden and spent much time over a period of 2 years taking photographs. And then the book was produced, and the introduction and captions are by Fergus Garrett, who is a very, very famous British gardener and plantsman. And he works at Great Dixter and was trained by Christopher Lloyd, and who had visited Ruth's Garden. It's really quite an exciting place. As you can see from this photograph, the garden encompassed many, many elements, which I will share with you in a minute. And it all began, the house was built in the early 60s, and the original landscape was designed by Garrett Eckbo, very famous landscape architect in California. And then as Ruth's kids left home and she got more into taking out their sandbox and putting in more plants, she invited Christine Rosmini to help her with the design. They became fast friends. They traveled together for many, many years. And Chris's imprint is very, very heavy on this garden. And I'll point out an element in another slide that embodies Chris. She also, in the last couple of years of her life, Ruth hired landscape designer Judy Horton to help her fine-tune the garden, replace some trees that had died. And Judy put her own fingerprint and thumbprint and plant print on the garden. So it really has been a collaborative experience, and that lives on to this day. The writing, by the way, Fergus wrote the introduction and then also did the captions to all of the photographs. But the introduction includes wonderful testimonials from Ruth's kids writing about their experience growing up with this garden nut. But they took it with them, and they love the garden themselves. So one thing I'll mention here before we go on is we always have a door prize at the end of our webinars. The wheel will go around, and one of you lucky people, one lucky person is going to receive a copy of this beautiful book, Ruth's Garden. So that will happen at the end after Dr. Simard's talk. So next slide, please. So as I said, there were many elements that went into Ruth's Garden, and we can't cover them all, but this is a fabulous picture that was taken only, I guess, last year by John Schustra, our beloved president. And this is a picture, as you can see, of this incredible liana, this huge Wisteria vine that was planted in 1961 in the garden. And it was just about Ruth's favorite plant. And you'll see a picture of her with it later. And she also, in this area, had a collection of cymbidiums, as you can see where my little cursor is. And then water features, I should say, this is a living, breathing garden. Water features very heavily in this garden. There are several ponds and a beautiful dark bottom swimming pool. And so the ponds not only house plants, but also bring in waterfowl, much to the chagrin sometimes of Ruth, but generally welcomed. Next slide, please. One part of the garden that isn't celebrated because you walk into this gorgeous space and you're just blown away by all the levels and the plants and things going together and the rock work. But one of the things is the detail. And Ruth loves succulents, and there are so many different succulents in containers in this garden and in beautiful, beautiful pots. And I didn't want to do a plant forum highlight of it on here, but this plant down here at the bottom is one of my favorite plants. It's called baby toes. It's related, it's one of the ice plants, and it's one of the easiest succulents to grow. You can find it at any nursery. Go in and ask for baby toes. It will make you happy. Next slide, please. So this is a beautiful photo from the book by Saxon, showing the rock work, the texture, color, and contrast that was a constant in this garden. And you can see just the assortment and variety of plants that are going in here, the climbing roses and the bulbs and the succulents and everything else. But I do want to point out this rock work. Chris Rossmini was, I think, the first landscape designer who really seriously took out concrete driveways and areas of concrete in gardens and didn't send the stuff to the landfill. She used it on site, which became a really, really hip thing to do. And it went under the name Urbanite is what it was called. You used to be able to get it for free, and now they charge you for broken concrete. But this was one of Chris's most famous gardens. And you can see how she used the broken concrete from the site to put in these incredible raised beds. The site is sloping, so you can see how down at the bottom here, how the rock work was done to bring a level bed into the picture. Next. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about a couple plants and we'll be done. So this is one of my personal favorite plants, and there was a beautiful one growing out front, and the front of the garden isn't featured much in photographs, but actually John took a couple. But this Euphorbia Covid19 is the plant that I'm showing here. It has these wonderful gray trunks and these gorgeous 1.5 to 2 inch long burgundy colored leaves. It is a tropical plant from Mexico and South America in the Euphorbia family, the spurge family. In our climate, it is deciduous. Down in warmer places where it comes from, it doesn't lose its leaves, but here it will lose its leaves in the wintertime. It grows up to about 10 to 15 feet, usually about 8 feet wide, so it's a little taller than it is wide. It has small white to yellow flowers with interesting little euphorbia flowers that occur in late spring and summer and are really nice in contrast with the dark color of the foliage. It's in the trade. You can find it usually in the back of a bed in a nursery where they've forgotten about it. But it is being grown by San Marcos growers. So if your nursery doesn't have it, you can ask them to order it from San Marcos. This, conveniently, is the back cover of Ruth's Garden, the book by Saxon, and his company is Photobotanica. And this is the beautiful back cover. So you can see, again, just the incredible use of many shades of green and contrasting with burgundy. And burgundy can be overused, maroon and burgundy in a garden, but here it's done with great taste and, very subtly. Next slide, please. So this is Ruth's Wisteria. It was her favorite plant. This purple of the Wisteria is the color of her bedroom walls. That's how much she loved it. And every spring, if you went to Ruth's house, she would take you outside to smell the Wisteria. A massive, gorgeous, gorgeous vine. Don't try and grow a Wisteria unless you have a really, really sturdy support. This shouldn't go on a little trellis on the wall. This is on an arbor, a patio arbor. Wisterias have been known to take down houses, so they get so big and heavy, but they are just treasured for their fragrance and their beauty. Wisteria sinensis, Chinese wisteria, is widely grown. You should be able to find it at most retail nurseries. Next slide, if there is another one. This may be the last slide.
That's all of them.
Yes, so this is the last slide. So now it's time to move on to the next subject. So I want to read one quote out of the book before I turn it over to John, who will introduce our illustrious speaker for the evening. So in the introductions, I love this quote. Ruth herself described the garden as, quote, a wild look in a civilized framework. I get so tired of neat. A little chaos is exciting. She rejoiced in, end quote, she rejoiced in self-sowers. Quote, it's so exciting when a really elegant plant starts seeding itself around and you realize, my God, it's happy. She took such great joy on trying all these different plants from around the world with a modicum of, you know, smarts. But when something really was happy in the garden, you know, it had found its place, and she didn't mind at all it getting repeated. So there was always serendipity. The bones of the garden are there, but there's always serendipity in this wonderful garden.